Chosen one. Something ancient is breaking open over your life right now, and what once felt like confusion is about to be revealed as confirmation. You did not arrive at this message by chance, anointed one. This is not a random click, not a passing curiosity, not an ordinary moment in your day. Heaven has arranged this encounter because there is a truth about your childhood, your warfare, and the weight you have carried for years that must be brought into the light now. For too long, you have wondered why you felt different, why rejection found you so early, why your spirit seemed older than your age, and why the battles around your life began before you even understood their meaning. But, chosen one, what if the pain was not proof that something was wrong with you? What if it was evidence that the hand of God was already resting on you? As Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 declares, "Before you were formed in the womb, you were known, set apart, and marked with purpose." This word is for the one who was called strange, too sensitive, too intense, too aware, anointed. One, you were never overlooked by heaven. You were hidden, preserved, and prepared. Subscribe and stay close if these messages keep finding you, because what you are about to hear will expose why the war started early and why your life could never be ordinary. Chosen one. The moment you stop calling your life random is the moment the fog begins to lift. So many years of your story only made sense through pain. You tried to explain the heaviness as personality. You tried to explain the rejection as bad timing. You tried to explain the warfare as ordinary struggle. But there comes a holy turning point when the Spirit of God puts His hand on your memory and says, "Look again," not with shame, not with self-pity. Look again with discernment. Because what you thought was confusion was often confirmation, and what you thought was misfortune was often evidence that something sacred had been resting on your life from the very beginning. There are people listening to me right now who have never felt fully at home in this world. Even as a child, you carried an ache you did not have language for. You could be sitting in your own bedroom, in your own house, around your own relatives, and still feel like you were passing through a place that never truly recognized you. That feeling did not make you broken, anointed one. That feeling was not proof that something was missing in you. It was the first whisper that your spirit knew more than your mind could explain. You were born into time, but your spirit carried the scent of eternity. You were present in the room, but something in you knew you were not built to be shaped by every room you entered. And that is where the battle often begins. It begins early. It begins quietly. It begins before you have theology for it, before you know what discernment is, before you can tell the difference between spiritual pressure and emotional pain. You only know that something is off. You know you were blamed for things you did not cause. You know adults seemed strangely unsettled by your presence. You know peers treated you like a threat when you were only trying to exist. You know you were called too sensitive when what was really happening was that your spirit was registering what others worked hard to hide. Some of you could look at a smile and feel the sadness behind it. Some of you could hear kind words and still sense manipulation moving underneath them. You did not have the vocabulary then, but you were perceiving more than people were comfortable admitting. Let that settle into your spirit for a moment. Not every child is targeted the same way. Not every life draws the same kind of resistance. When darkness detects future authority, it often begins its campaign before the vessel understands its own name. That is why some of you experienced intensity far too early. The fear, the instability, the chaos in the home, the strange pressure around your mind, the feeling that you had to mature faster than everyone around you, it all left an imprint. and for years you may have interpreted that imprint as damage alone. But chosen one, what if part of what you survived was not only attack, but exposure? What if the violence of the battle revealed the seriousness of the calling? Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 speaks with a weight that many hear, but do not fully absorb. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. That means the hand of God on your life did not begin the day you became spiritually aware. It did not begin when you learned to pray properly. It did not begin when people finally affirmed your gift. It began before your arrival, which also means resistance did not wait for your understanding either. There are forces that study patterns. They cannot create destiny, but they can detect movement. They can sense when a life carries unusual weight. They can sense when someone has been marked for influence, for intercession, for healing, for leadership, for stewardship, even for the kind of provision that will one day bless more than just one household. That is why some of you have lived with a pressure in your chest that never seemed to match your age. You smiled in photographs, but your eyes carried knowing. You were young, but there was grief in you that no child should have had to process alone. Others around you may have thought you were dramatic or withdrawn or hard to understand, but heaven saw the strain. Heaven saw what your nervous system was holding. Heaven saw how your spirit kept absorbing atmospheres that were too heavy for your years. And still you were preserved. Do not rush past that word. Preserved, not untouched, not untested. Preserved. That means the attack was real, but so was the covering. The confusion was real, but so was the hand of God that kept saying, not this one. Some of you should have been taken out by what you went through in childhood. That is not exaggeration. There were moments that could have shattered your future before it ever unfolded. Some of you walked through sicknesses, accidents, household trauma, emotional abandonment, or silent despair that should have swallowed your sense of self. And yet here you are, still listening, still seeking, still able to recognize the weight of truth when it reaches you. That matters more than you know. Because survival is not the whole testimony, but it is the first sign. The fact that you made it through what should have buried you is itself a witness that your life has never been ordinary. And this is where many chosen people have to let God reframe the story. Because if the enemy cannot destroy your future, he will try to distort your interpretation of your past. He will tell you that you were singled out because you were defective. He will tell you that the isolation proves you were unlovable. He will tell you that the heaviness means you're too fragile to carry anything significant. But the Spirit of the Lord is correcting that lie now. You were not hated because you were worthless. You were resisted because you carried something difficult to control. You were not overlooked because heaven forgot you. You were hidden because timing matters. You were not too much. You were carrying more than the environment around you knew how to honor. And once that realization enters your spirit, something begins to shift. The pain does not disappear in one moment, but the meaning starts to change. The battlefield no longer looks like a meaningless wasteland. It begins to look like early evidence that your life has been under divine attention for a very long time. And if that is true, then the next question becomes unavoidable. What exactly were the signs, and why did they show up so early? What begins to emerge when you look closely is that the mark of God often announces itself through patterns other people dismiss. Chosen one. One of the clearest signs is the strange homesickness you have carried for years, and I am not speaking about missing a city or missing a person. I am speaking about that unexplainable ache that followed you even in familiar places, that feeling that nothing around you could fully name you, hold you, or satisfy the deeper hunger in your spirit. You could be surrounded by family and still feel alone. You could achieve something others celebrated and still feel that the celebration never reached the deepest place in you. That is not because you are impossible to please. It is because your spirit has always been reaching for a realm deeper than the one your natural life could provide. Some people are perfectly at ease being shaped by whatever room they enter, but an anointed vessel often feels a holy discomfort long before they understand why. That discomfort is not always rebellion. Sometimes it is recognition. Sometimes your spirit is saying, "This place feeds my body, but it cannot nourish my assignment." This is why from an early age you may have felt older than your years, heavier than your age, more observant than the people around you. You were not merely growing up, you were carrying atmosphere, and when a child carries atmosphere, the environment reacts. That is why another hidden sign is the way accusations seem to cling to your story. Even when you were not the cause, you were treated like the cause. Even when you were telling the truth, suspicion found you. Even when you were trying to make peace, somehow tension circled back and landed at your feet. That pattern wounded you deeply because children internalize what repeats around them. If you are blamed long enough, you begin to question your own innocence. If you are misunderstood long enough, you begin to distrust your own voice. If you are misread long enough, you start editing your own presence just to survive. But this is where discernment must return to your memory and recover what accusations stole from you. The spirit of accusation does not only attack behavior, it attacks identity. It wants to make the chosen one feel inherently wrong, inherently inconvenient, inherently difficult to love. But what if the hostility was not really about your flaws? What if it was provoked by the light you carried into places that depended on denial to function? Light does not need to argue with darkness to expose it. It only has to arrive. And many of you, even as children, arrived carrying a light that made hidden things uncomfortable. That is why sensitivity is another sign that has been badly misnamed in your life. You were told you were too emotional, too intense, too aware, too affected by things that should not matter. But often what people called overreaction was actually perception. You were reading undercurrents others were ignoring. You were feeling danger before it had language. You were recognizing envy before it revealed its face. You could sense when an adult was lying. You could feel when kindness was forced. You could walk into a room and know something had shifted without anyone saying a word. That level of sensitivity can be exhausting if it is not understood, because what God intended as discernment can feel like torment when you have no framework for it. You begin to wonder why your body gets tense around certain people, why your spirit feels tired after ordinary conversations, why some spaces feel heavy even when everyone else says everything is fine. Yet, this is one of the hidden signs that the hand of God has been on you since childhood. He was training your inner witness before your vocabulary caught up. He was sharpening your spiritual hearing in seasons when nobody around you even knew what gift they were seeing. The problem is that discernment without covering often leads to isolation. When you perceive what others refuse to acknowledge, you become inconvenient to people who are invested in illusion. That is why so many anointed ones were treated like the black sheep of the family. Not because they were the darkest, but because they reflected what the system did not want to face. In many homes, there is one child who absorbs the tension, one child who feels everything, one child who somehow carries the emotional weather of the whole house. If that was you, hear me clearly. You were not weak because you felt it all. You were not strange because you noticed what others ignored. Sometimes the child who feels the most is the one marked to break what others normalized. Sometimes the one who is cast as the outsider is actually the one carrying the key to freedom. This is why your early life may have felt like standing in a house full of people while still sensing that nobody truly saw you. They saw your reactions, but not the burden beneath them. They saw your sensitivity, but not the gift inside it. They saw your tears, but not the spiritual pressure producing them. There is another sign that many chosen people overlook because it has caused them so much pain, and that is rejection in places where love should have been easy. You offered sincerity and received distance. You offered loyalty and met betrayal. You tried to belong, and somehow the door kept narrowing. This pattern is deeply personal because rejection does not only close doors, it whispers conclusions. It tells you that something is wrong with your nature, wrong with your presence, wrong with your worth. But for a chosen life, rejection is often doing two things at once. It is revealing what cannot carry your calling, and it is protecting what has not yet fully emerged. If every relationship had embraced you too early, some of them would have delayed you, diluted you, or made you settle into environments too small for what God placed in you. That does not mean the pain was imaginary. It means the purpose was deeper than the pain. The Lord was not celebrating your loneliness, but He was using separation to preserve your future. Some doors closed because there was a snake in the room. Some friendships failed because they were built for comfort, not destiny. Some circles rejected you because your becoming would have threatened their agreement with smallness. You can see this pattern all through Scripture. Joseph was rejected before he was elevated. David was hidden before he was recognized. Moses was threatened before he was commissioned. Samuel heard God while others around him were spiritually dull. These stories are not distant to you because your spirit has been living in the same rhythm. You have known what it is to be misunderstood before being understood, resisted before being affirmed, delayed before being revealed. That does not make you cursed. It places you in a lineage. And this is why the enemy works so hard to make chosen people interpret their history through shame instead of through pattern. Because once you see the pattern, you stop collapsing under the weight of every old wound. You begin to realize there has been a line running through your life the whole time, a thread of preservation, a thread of calling, a thread of unusual pressure that only makes sense when you finally admit that God was not absent in your early years. He was present in a hidden way. And with that realization comes another difficult truth. The battle did not only touch your surroundings, it also came for your mind. Many chosen ones have lived under strange waves of heaviness that seem to arrive without warning. Anxiety that did not match the moment, depression that felt almost physical, thoughts that did not sound like your deepest self, yet still passed through your mind with enough force to frighten you. Let me speak carefully here, because not everything is simple, and not everything should be reduced carelessly. But it is also true that when a life carries purpose, the mind often becomes a battleground because the mind is where agreement is formed. If the enemy cannot cancel the call, he will try to exhaust the vessel. He will try to wear you down until you call your assignment a curse and your discernment a disorder. He will try to make you so tired of fighting that you begin to negotiate with hopelessness. But your survival through those mental storms is itself another hidden sign. Something kept pulling you back. Something kept preserving the core of you even when your thoughts were under siege. The hand of God was not absent in that war either. He was holding what the attack could not take. This is where many of you must let compassion meet truth. You are not weak because the battle reached your mind. You are not disqualified because you got tired. You are not less chosen because some seasons felt like you were crawling instead of running. Chosen one. The mark of God does not mean you never tremble. It means you are preserved through what should have erased you. It means the oil stayed on your life, even while you were learning how to breathe under pressure. It means your story contains evidence of interruption after interruption, rescue after rescue, hidden mercy after hidden mercy. And when you finally begin to see that, you stop asking only why the warfare came. You begin asking what heaven was protecting so fiercely that hell reacted that early. That question changes everything because it opens the door to the wilderness, and the wilderness is where the next layer of understanding begins. There is a moment in every chosen life when the pattern shifts from confusion to recognition, and that moment often begins in what feels like isolation. Chosen one. You may not have called it a wilderness at the time. You may have just called it loneliness, being left out, being overlooked, being the one who stayed home while others seemed to move freely through life. But the wilderness is not always a physical desert. Sometimes it is the quiet place where your distractions are stripped away and your dependence on people begins to break. It is the place where validation becomes scarce so that identity can be rebuilt on something deeper. And if you look closely at your own journey, you will notice that while others were forming themselves through crowds, you were being formed through solitude. That solitude did not feel holy at first. It felt like rejection. It felt like something was wrong with your ability to connect. You may have watched friendships fall apart without fully understanding why. You may have experienced long stretches where your phone stayed silent, where invitations stopped coming, where you questioned whether you had somehow become invisible. But what you could not see then is that heaven was removing noise so you could hear clearly. When God begins to shape a vessel for purpose, He often reduces the number of voices that can influence that vessel. Not because He wants you empty, but because He wants you aligned. In a crowded environment, it is easy to borrow identity from the people around you. In the wilderness, you are forced to confront who you are when nobody is affirming you and nobody is correcting you. That confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary. Moses spent years hidden before he ever stood before Pharaoh. David learned how to fight in secret before he ever faced a giant in public. There is a reason for that pattern, anointed one. Public assignment without private formation leads to collapse. God is not in a hurry to expose what has not been strengthened. That is why your hidden years were not wasted years. They were training grounds. Even when it felt like nothing was happening, something was being built inside you. Your resilience was being strengthened. Your discernment was being sharpened. Your ability to stand alone without losing yourself was being developed. And that ability is rare. Many people can function when they are surrounded by support, but very few can maintain their identity when they are left alone with their own thoughts and their own process. In that place, another sign began to show itself, and it is one that people often misunderstand. You developed a heart that forgives beyond what seems reasonable. You gave people second chances, sometimes third chances, even when they had already shown you who they were. You extended grace when others would have walked away. And for a long time, you may have thought that made you weak. You may have thought you lacked boundaries. But there is a difference between having a soft heart and having an unguarded life. The compassion in you did not come from nowhere. It was formed in the same places where you were wounded. You understood pain, so you learned how to hold space for others in their pain. You knew what it felt like to be misunderstood, so you became careful not to misjudge others. That is not weakness, chosen one. That is the imprint of Christ-like character forming in you before you even had language for it. But here is where the enemy becomes strategic. When he cannot remove your compassion, he will try to exploit it. He will send people who recognize your empathy and use it as an entry point. You may have noticed a pattern where broken people are drawn to you. People who need healing, people who need support, people who need someone to listen. And because your nature is to help you open the door, you give your time, your energy, your attention. You pour into them, and then slowly you begin to feel drained. Not because you were wrong to care, but because not everyone who comes to you is assigned to stay with you. Some people come as a test of your discernment, not as a confirmation of your assignment. This is where the metaphor of oil becomes important. Your life carries oil, and oil is not cheap. It is produced through pressure, through crushing, through time. You cannot give it away carelessly. You cannot keep setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. There must come a moment where your compassion is guided by discernment, where your kindness is balanced with boundaries, where your desire to help does not override your responsibility to protect what God is building in you. Because if you pour yourself out in the wrong places, you will arrive at the right place exhausted. And right when you begin to grow, right when you begin to step into a clearer sense of who you are, another pattern tends to appear. Every time you get close to something meaningful, something interrupts it. Opportunities collapse, plans fall apart. Unexpected problems arise. It feels like progress is constantly being delayed. This is one of the most frustrating parts of the journey because it makes you question whether you are moving in the right direction at all. But what you are encountering is not random disruption, it is resistance. And resistance is often proportionate to the weight of what you are carrying. Daniel chapter 10 verse 13 describes a delay that had nothing to do with Daniel's prayer being unheard. The answer was sent, but it was resisted. That means delay does not always mean denial. Sometimes it means there is movement happening in a realm you cannot see. Chosen one. If your life were insignificant, there would be no reason for consistent interference. If your future carried no weight, there would be no need for repeated attempts to exhaust you. The enemy does not waste energy where there is no threat. The level of pressure you have experienced is not proof that you are failing. It is often proof that you are carrying something that cannot be allowed to move forward easily. And deep inside you, there has always been a fire that refuses to settle. A restlessness with the way things are. A sense that something is off, even when everything looks normal on the surface. You look at systems and see cracks others ignore. You look at situations and feel a burden others dismiss. That is not dissatisfaction for the sake of complaining. That is a prophetic tension. It is the part of you that recognizes that what is visible is not always aligned with what is true. And that awareness can be heavy because it makes it difficult to relax into environments that are built on compromise. You may have found yourself grieving over things that others do not even notice, feeling deeply for people you barely know, carrying a weight in your spirit that seems disconnected from your immediate life. That is not instability. That is intercession trying to find expression. It is the early formation of someone who does not just observe life, but stands in the gap within it. And yet, with that calling comes another layer of resistance. Your voice becomes a target. Think back to how often you were silenced, how often you were interrupted, dismissed, talked over, or made to feel like your words carried less value. Think about the hesitation that developed when you tried to speak truth, that tightening in your throat, that second-guessing of your own voice. That did not happen by accident, because there is power in what you say. There is authority in what you carry, and if the enemy can keep you quiet, he can delay the impact of your assignment. But silence was never your destiny. It was a temporary suppression. All of these patterns are not separate. They are connected. The homesickness, the accusation, the sensitivity, the rejection, the isolation, the compassion, the resistance, the fire within you. They are all threads of the same story, a story that points to one truth you are beginning to understand. You were never just living an ordinary life. You were being shaped under pressure for something that required depth, endurance, and clarity. And once that truth begins to settle in your spirit, the question shifts again. It is no longer just about what you went through. It becomes about who and what has been moving around you this entire time, shaping, resisting, and responding to the mark on your life. The moment you begin to truly understand what has been unfolding in your life, something inside you starts to settle, not into passivity, but into a deeper kind of awareness that what you have endured was never random. There has always been movement behind the scenes, a quiet orchestration that did not need your permission to begin and does not require your full understanding to complete. You may have thought the delays meant denial, that the silence meant absence. But what is becoming clear now is that nothing was ever wasted. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every season that felt stretched beyond reason was part of a preparation that could not be rushed. There is a shift happening within you that feels subtle yet undeniable, like a quiet recalibration of how you see everything. You are no longer reacting the same way to uncertainty, and even when questions arise, they do not carry the same weight they once did. That is because something deeper than your emotions has started to take root. It is the realization that timing has never been in your control, and yet it has always been precise. The very thing you were waiting for has not been delayed out of neglect, but positioned with intention. When the moment arrives, it will not feel forced or chaotic. It will feel aligned, as if everything suddenly clicks into place without struggle. What makes this season different is not just what is coming, but who you have become in the process of waiting. There is a maturity in your spirit now that was not there before, a clarity that allows you to discern what matters and what no longer holds value. The things that once consumed your attention have begun to fade, and in their place is a stronger sense of direction. This is not accidental. It is the evidence that you have been shaped for something that requires more than desire. It requires readiness. And readiness is not built overnight. It is formed through endurance, through moments where you had to keep moving forward without visible confirmation. You are beginning to see that the pressure you felt was not meant to break you, but to refine you. It stripped away assumptions, exposed weaknesses, and forced you into a deeper dependence on something greater than yourself. In those moments when you felt like you had nothing left to hold on to, something unseen was holding on to you. That is why you are still here, not just surviving, but standing with a strength that cannot be easily shaken. It is not the kind of strength that comes from ease, but the kind that is built through resistance. There is also a quiet realization forming that what is ahead of you will not look like what you expected in the past. The vision you once had may have been limited by your previous understanding, but now your perspective has expanded. You are no longer asking for small outcomes or temporary relief. There is a deeper alignment taking place, one that connects not just to what you want, but to what you are meant to carry. And that distinction changes everything, because when something is meant for you, it does not require constant striving to hold on to it. It flows into your life in a way that feels both surprising and inevitable. At the same time, there is a call to remain grounded in this transition. It is easy to become overwhelmed when things begin to shift, especially after a long season of waiting. But this is where awareness matters. You are not stepping into something fragile that can be lost easily. You are stepping into something that has been established long before you recognized it. That is why your focus now is not to chase outcomes, but to stay aligned with what you already sense unfolding. The more you resist the urge to control every detail, the more clearly you will see how things are coming together. There is a sense that what is about to unfold will not just answer your previous questions, but redefine them entirely. The things you once worried about will seem smaller in comparison to what is being placed in front of you. Not because your past struggles were insignificant, but because they were leading you toward a perspective that could only be gained through experience. You needed to see what it felt like to lack, to wait, to question, so that when the shift happens, you recognize its value in a way that goes beyond surface-level appreciation. And as this realization deepens, you may find yourself reflecting on everything that has happened with a different lens. Moments that once felt painful or confusing begin to make sense in ways they did not before. You see connections where there once seemed to be none. You understand why certain things did not work out, why certain people could not stay, why certain paths had to close. It is not about revisiting the past with regret, but about recognizing its role in bringing you to this point. There is a quiet confidence building within you now, not loud or boastful, but steady and grounded. It does not need validation from others because it is rooted in something internal. You are starting to trust what you sense, even when you cannot fully explain it. And that trust is what allows you to move forward without needing constant reassurance. It is the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you have already endured what once felt impossible. What lies ahead will require that same steadiness. Not because it will be difficult in the same way as before, but because it will require you to carry what you have been prepared for without shrinking back into old patterns. The version of you that struggled to believe, that questioned your worth, that hesitated at every opportunity, is no longer the version leading your life. You have outgrown that space, even if part of you is still adjusting to the change. And as you continue forward, there will be moments where you pause and realize that the very things you once prayed for are now becoming part of your reality. Not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in a steady unfolding that feels natural. That is how you will know that what is happening is real. It will not feel forced or unstable. It will feel grounded, like something that belongs to you. In the end, this is not just about what is coming into your life, but about the alignment that has been taking place within you all along. The shift you have been sensing is not just external, it is internal, and that is what makes it lasting. Because when the internal changes, the external follows in ways that no longer feel temporary. And that is where you are now standing, at a point where what once felt distant is beginning to move closer, not through effort alone, but through alignment that has been building over time. There is something you need to see clearly now. Chosen one, because this is where many people misinterpret what is happening in their lives and miss the very moment that was meant to elevate them. The resistance you have been feeling is not a sign that you are off track. It is the confirmation that you are approaching something that carries weight. The closer you get to alignment, the more pressure you will feel, not because you are being pushed away, but because you are breaking through layers that were never meant to go with you into your next season. You may have noticed a pattern repeating itself in your life, anointed one, where just as things begin to open, something unexpected rises up to challenge your focus. It can look like sudden distractions, emotional heaviness, misunderstandings with people, or even moments where your confidence seems to waver without reason. This is not coincidence. This is the friction that happens when your life begins to move out of an old frequency and into a new one. And what you must understand is this: not everything that feels like opposition is meant to stop you. Some of it is revealing what can no longer remain. There are connections, habits, and even internal beliefs that once had permission to exist in your life, but they cannot survive where you are going. And instead of quietly fading away, they resist. They attempt to hold your attention, to pull you back into familiar cycles, to make you question the very clarity you have been gaining. This is why this moment requires awareness more than effort. You are not being asked to fight everything around you. You are being asked to recognize what no longer aligns and let it fall without trying to fix it. This is where many people delay their own elevation because they try to carry everything forward. They try to maintain relationships that have expired, hold on to versions of themselves that no longer reflect who they are becoming, and preserve comfort in places where growth is required. But you're beginning to see differently now. You can feel when something is no longer right, even if you cannot fully explain it. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is discernment becoming sharper. And as your discernment sharpens, your decisions must follow. Not rushed, not reactive, but intentional. There will be moments where you are faced with choices that seem small on the surface, but carry deeper implications. Whether you choose to stay in a conversation, respond to a situation, or engage with a certain environment, all of it begins to matter in a new way, because you are no longer operating from survival. You are operating from alignment. And alignment requires boundaries. You may find yourself stepping back from things that once felt normal, conversations that drain you, environments that feel heavy, patterns that no longer make sense. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you are breaking habits that were once automatic. But this is not loss. This is refinement. You are making space, even if you do not yet see what is about to fill it. There is also a deeper level of trust being formed in you right now. Not just trust in outcomes, but trust in the process itself. You are learning to move without needing to see every step ahead. You are learning to respond to what you sense rather than what you fear. And that shift is powerful because it removes the need to control everything. You begin to realize that what is meant for you does not require constant force. It requires positioning. At the same time, there is a subtle but important warning in this season. Chosen one. As things begin to align, there will be opportunities that look similar to what you have been waiting for, but they will not carry the same weight. They will feel close, almost right, but something in you will hesitate. Do not ignore that hesitation. Not everything that arrives quickly is meant to stay. Some things appear to test whether you have truly learned to discern. This is where patience becomes protection. You are not in a season where you need to grab every open door. You are in a season where you need to recognize the right one. And the right one will not require you to compromise your peace to maintain it. It will not pull you back into confusion or make you question your direction. It will feel aligned, even if it challenges you to grow. There is also a shift happening in how you see yourself, even if you have not fully acknowledged it yet. The version of you that once doubted your place, that questioned whether you were ready, that looked for validation from others, is beginning to fade. In its place is a quieter confidence, one that does not need to prove itself. You are starting to move with a different awareness, one that recognizes that you are not trying to become something new. You are stepping into what has already been prepared for you. And this is where everything begins to change, because once you stop trying to force outcomes and start aligning with what is already unfolding, your energy shifts. You're no longer chasing, you're recognizing. You're no longer questioning every step. You're moving with intention. And that shift is what creates momentum. You will begin to notice that certain things start to come together without the same level of effort you once had to exert. Conversations will happen at the right time. Opportunities will present themselves in ways that feel natural. Connections will form without you having to prove your worth. This is not luck. This is alignment showing its effect. But even in this, you are being prepared to handle what is coming with clarity, because what is ahead of you is not just about receiving, it is about carrying. And carrying requires stability. It requires that you do not revert back to old patterns when things begin to move in your favor. It requires that you remain grounded in who you have become, not who you used to be. So, when things begin to shift more visibly, when what you have been sensing starts to take form, remember this moment. Remember the clarity you are gaining right now. Remember the boundaries you are learning to set. Because this is the foundation that will allow you to sustain what is coming, not just experience it briefly. And there is something else you need to understand as you move forward, Anointed One. The resistance you have faced was never a sign that you were unqualified. It was the evidence that what you carry has value. If there was nothing significant ahead of you, there would have been no reason for such consistent pressure. The very fact that you had to endure what you did is proof that your life was never meant to remain where it started. Now you are standing in a moment where things are no longer hidden in the same way. The clarity is increasing, the patterns are becoming visible, the distractions are easier to identify. And with that comes responsibility, not pressure, but responsibility to move differently, to choose differently, to align more intentionally with what you now understand. Because what is about to unfold next will require you to step fully into that alignment, not partially, not occasionally, but consistently. And as you begin to do that, you will see that what once felt distant is no longer something you are reaching for. It is something you are stepping into. There is a moment in every chosen life where understanding is no longer enough, and response becomes necessary, and you are standing in that moment now. The awareness you have been gaining is not just meant to comfort you or explain your past, it is meant to reposition your future. Because once you see clearly, you cannot move the same way you used to. The patterns you once tolerated begin to stand out. The compromises you once justified begin to feel heavier. And the places you once settled for begin to feel too small for who you are becoming. This is where alignment becomes visible through action. Not through dramatic decisions or sudden changes, but through the quiet choices you make every day, what you give your attention to, what you allow into your space, what you continue to carry, and what you finally release. These decisions may seem simple on the surface, but they are shaping the structure of your next season, because what is coming into your life will not adjust itself to fit your old patterns. It will require you to meet it at a different level. There is also a deeper awareness forming within you about your value, and this is where many chosen ones have struggled in the past. You were taught either directly or indirectly to minimize yourself, to question your worth, to shrink in environments that could not recognize what you carried. But that conditioning cannot follow you into what is ahead, because where you are going, your presence is not optional, it is necessary. The very things that once made you feel out of place are the same things that will define your impact. You may not fully see it yet, but there is a shift happening in how others will begin to perceive you. Not because you are trying to be seen differently, but because you are no longer hiding the parts of yourself that carry weight. When you speak, there will be clarity. When you act, there will be intention. When you move, there will be direction. And people will recognize it even if they cannot explain it. This is not about seeking recognition, it is about no longer suppressing what has already been established within you. At the same time, you are being guided into a deeper level of stewardship. Because what you carry is not just for you. The insight, the resilience, the clarity, the perspective you have gained through your experiences are not random developments. They are resources. And like any resource, they must be handled with awareness. You will begin to notice opportunities where your presence brings stability, where your words bring direction, where your decisions influence more than just your own path. This is the beginning of responsibility that extends beyond your personal life. And this is where the concept of provision begins to take on a new meaning. It is not just about what comes into your life, but about how it flows through you. There will be moments where you realize that what you have been given is connected to something larger, that the doors opening in front of you are not only for your benefit, but for the impact you are meant to create. This is why your preparation had to be thorough, because what is coming requires both capacity and clarity. You're also entering a space where your discernment will be tested in new ways, not through obvious challenges, but through subtle distinctions. The difference between what looks good and what is right. The difference between what is available and what is aligned. The difference between what is temporary and what is sustainable. These distinctions will matter more than ever because as your life expands, so do the options around you, and not all of them are meant to be accepted. This is why you must remain anchored in what you have learned. The quiet awareness you have developed, the ability to sense what is off without needing external confirmation, the patience to wait until something feels right. These are not small traits. They are the very things that will protect you as your environment begins to shift. Because the more you grow, the more important it becomes to stay aligned with your core. There is also a level of confidence that is beginning to stabilize within you, and it is different from what you may have experienced before. It is not based on comparison or validation. It is based on recognition. You're starting to recognize who you are without needing someone else to confirm it. And that changes how you move. You become less reactive, less influenced by external opinions, and more grounded in your own awareness. This does not mean that challenges will disappear. It means that your relationship with them will change. You will no longer see every obstacle as a threat. You will begin to recognize patterns, to understand timing, to see how certain situations are meant to refine rather than restrict. And that shift in perception is what allows you to move forward without being held back by fear. As this continues to unfold, you may find yourself revisiting certain aspects of your life with a new perspective. Not to dwell on them, but to understand them differently. You will see how certain moments prepared you for decisions you are now making, how certain struggles built the resilience you are now relying on, how certain delays positioned you for opportunities that would not have been possible earlier. And in this reflection, there is a sense of closure that begins to form. Not because everything has been resolved perfectly, but because you no longer need to carry the same questions. The need to understand every detail, to explain every situation, to justify every outcome begins to fade. In its place is a quieter acceptance that what has brought you here was necessary. Now you are standing at a point where movement is no longer about searching. It is about stepping into what has already been set in motion. The path ahead may not be fully visible, but it is no longer unfamiliar. There is a sense of direction that you can trust, even when you cannot see the full picture, and that trust is what allows you to move forward without hesitation. Because what is about to unfold is not something you need to chase. It is something that has been moving toward you, aligning with you, preparing to meet you at the point where you are ready to receive it without resistance. And as that moment approaches, you will recognize it not by how loud it is, but by how clear it feels. There comes a moment, chosen one, when everything you have heard, everything you have endured, and everything you have begun to understand converges into a single realization that cannot be ignored any longer. You are not who you used to be. And you cannot return to the version of yourself that once tolerated confusion, minimized your worth, or questioned your place. That version of you served its purpose. It survived what it needed to survive. It carried you through seasons that required endurance, but it cannot lead you into what has already been prepared for you. What you are stepping into now requires a different posture, not one of striving, but one of authority, not loud or forceful, but grounded and certain. There is a difference between hoping something will happen and knowing that you are ready when it does, and that is where you are now. You may still feel moments of uncertainty, but beneath them is a steady awareness that something has shifted permanently within you. You're no longer waiting to become. You are recognizing that you already are. There is also a clarity forming about what you will no longer carry forward. Not out of resentment, not out of frustration, but out of understanding. You see now that certain attachments, certain patterns, certain ways of thinking were never meant to be permanent. They were part of a process, not part of your identity. And releasing them is not loss. It is alignment. It is making room for what matches who you have become rather than who you once had to be. As this clarity deepens, you will begin to notice a different kind of peace settling within you. Not the kind that comes from everything being easy, but the kind that comes from being anchored. You are no longer easily shaken by uncertainty because you understand that not every unknown is a threat. Some of it is simply the space where new things are forming. And instead of trying to fill that space prematurely, you are learning to let it unfold. There is also a quiet strength in you now that does not need to be proven. It shows up in how you respond, how you choose, how you carry yourself in moments that once would have unsettled you. You are no longer reacting from old wounds or old fears. You are responding from awareness. And that difference is what changes your direction. Because your future is not determined by what happens around you, but by how you meet it. You may also begin to notice that what once felt distant is no longer something you have to reach for. It is moving toward you with the same clarity that you have been moving toward it. The connections, the opportunities, the shifts that you once questioned are beginning to align in ways that feel natural rather than forced. And when they arrive, you will recognize them not by their appearance, but by how they resonate with what you have already become. This is also the moment where you must fully accept that your life carries weight, not as pressure, but as purpose. What you have been through was not just about survival, it was about preparation. And what you are stepping into is not just about receiving, it is about carrying, about using what you have gained in a way that extends beyond your own experience. There are people you will impact, situations you will influence, and outcomes that will shift because you chose to move differently. And with that comes responsibility, but not the kind that burdens you. It is the kind that aligns you, because when you understand the value of what you carry, you naturally protect it. You become intentional about where you invest your time, your energy, your attention. You no longer engage with everything that comes your way. You choose, and that choice is what maintains the alignment you have worked to reach. There is also something important you need to remember as you move forward. The clarity you have gained is not something to hold on to tightly out of fear of losing it. It is something to live from. The more you try to control it, the more you will feel tension. But the more you trust it, the more naturally it will guide you. This is not about perfection. It is about consistency. Small, intentional steps that reflect the understanding you now have. And as you continue, there will be moments where you look back and realize how far you have come, not just in circumstances, but in perspective. The things that once defined your struggles will no longer define your identity. They will become part of your story, but not the center of it. Because the center has shifted. It is no longer about what you went through, it is about what you are becoming. Now you are standing at a point where movement feels different. It is not rushed, not forced, not driven by urgency or fear. It is steady, it is intentional, it is aligned. And that is how you will know that what is unfolding is real, because it will not feel like something you are chasing. It will feel like something you are stepping into. So as you move forward from this moment, carry this awareness with you. Not as a burden, but as a foundation. You are not searching anymore. You are not trying to prove anything. You are walking in something that has already been established. And as you continue, you will see that what once felt uncertain is now becoming clear. What once felt distant is now within reach. And what once felt impossible is now part of your reality. And in that realization, you will understand that nothing about your journey was accidental. Every step, every delay, every challenge, every shift was leading you here to this moment, where you are no longer questioning what is happening, but recognizing that it was always meant to unfold this way. Chosen one, receive this with a settled spirit, because what has been spoken over your life is not a distant hope. It is a present movement. Even now, things you cannot yet see are shifting into place. Paths are aligning. Delays are dissolving. What once resisted you is beginning to release its hold, not by force, but by divine order. This is your Kairos moment, anointed one. A time appointed before you ever understood the weight of your own story. You do not have to strive to prove what heaven has already established. You do not have to chase what has already been assigned. Remain steady, remain aligned, remain anchored in the truth that you are carried, covered, and called. What is meant for you will recognize you, and what is not will fall away without struggle. I speak peace over your mind, clarity over your decisions, and strength over your steps. May every door that opens before you confirm what your spirit already knows. May every connection align with your purpose. May every provision meet you at the exact moment you need it. If this word has settled in your spirit, seal it with a simple Amen in the comments, not as a habit, but as a declaration that you recognize the timing of God over your life. And if these messages continue to find you, stay connected so you do not miss what is being released for your journey. Go forward in quiet confidence. Chosen one, what has been prepared is already on its way.